Well, hello everyone, and may I first say it's a huge honour to be here and with you to find out more about one of the most significant markets to emerge in recent years. As we all know, the affluent Indian traveller, which is why we're actually here. But make no bones about it, from my perspective, this is a very significant development. I mean, I'm old enough, frankly, to know or to remember when the internet exploded on the scene and made a huge difference. And it's also true, and it was mentioned before, that the Chinese outbound market, when that exploded, that was a big thing. But I think what we're seeing now is an enormously important step in the evolution of travel with Indian luxury travelers. And we have with us on this first session, we have actually in the next three sessions, the creme de la creme, I would call them, of travel expertise in this area. And we are privileged here to get the inside track. So, learn as much as you can from these people. And don't forget, you can ask questions in the Q&A box on your screen. So the first session is really about opportunities and challenges. And I have joining me, we have Amit Kalsi, who's the founder of Experiential Travel Journeys. Amit, you've been in the business since 1993. You cut your teeth with Abercrombie and Kent, famous travel experts. And then in 2014, you launched Experiential Travel Journeys as a provider of high-end experiential tailor-made travel to destinations worldwide. We have Sanjar Imam, who's the founder director of Panache World. You've been in the business for 3 decades, and your experiences range from having organized, I believe, and led spiritual journeys in Tibet and Egypt, and you managed round-the-world trips on private jets, and you've managed the logistics for the royal family, which is very topical. I mean, the British royal family, which is very topical. And now, through your enterprise, Panache World, you design trips to 80 countries around the world. And I had the privilege of meeting your partner in the previous session, Loveline, and that was great. But I'm sure you can equal her contribution. And then finally, we have Anshul Shah, who's the partner of All Four Seasons. All Four Seasons are amongst the top luxury travel providers in India. They're part of Traveller Made. Now, you are one of a father-son partnership. You joined your dad in 2010 in the company providing a one-stop shop service, and you're preferred partners with loads of leading hotels. Okay, let's start. Let's deal really, I think, first of all, with the current state of play. A lot of stuff is happening in the world, and I'm interested in how much that's affecting your world and your clientele. So, in your opinions, has travel rebounded in the last 6 months since the last conference we held? And can you put any number on it, would you say? So, Sanjar.
Well, I think it started with the Indian government lifting away, uh, the test on arrival back into the country because I think people were sort of not willing to quarantine. So that happened in the third week of March, and since then, which is precisely 6 months, we've seen uh, call it revenge travel, call it, I choose to call it purposeful travel because people choose what to do, and there's been a whole load of rejig with their bucket list. So it's all very sort of intended, planned, and purposeful travel. I think in the past 6 months, we've already done what we did, pre-pandemic in the whole year. So, and we are looking at the next 6 months. So it's only going to be, that much more. Um, Certain impediments, but nevertheless, people are back traveling. The demand is high. I speak to colleagues in hotel business, and they are all claiming record year. So it looks like everyone's sort of more than making up for the time lost.
And just to stick on this, I mean, there has been a lot of turmoil in the world in the last 6 months, as we know, the kind of geopolitical situation, all the stuff that's going on at the moment. How much does that affect your clientele? I mean, they are affluent travelers. Does it affect them?
It does not, because I think they just choose carefully where to go, and they can avoid places that they don't wish to be, or let's say that are in the news for the wrong reasons. But they are traveling. They are, wanting to do more and more, and they've been traveling every 2 or 3 months since the past 6 months. So they just choose their destinations carefully, and I think nothing's stopping them from traveling.
Anshul, what's your view? How have things changed in the last 6 months?
I think a lot of things have completely changed from a traveler's perspective, and for good reasons. There has been a lot of ups and downs with clients, but in general, in one consensus, if I may say that people are not afraid to travel anymore. They are not afraid of spending either, and the affluent has gone. So probably they were spending like $500 a night, and now they are not shying away of spending $2,000 a night. And as Sanjar said, that the total amount of the volumes what we were doing has really jumped up because per file revenue has really jumped up. So and again, it's all good reasons. People are not afraid of travel. And jumping into the other question which you had, Indians in general are resistant of what's happening in certain parts of the world, and they will not shy away traveling to the other parts of the world. So in general, people understand that there will be problems in one part of the world, but they will not shy away to travel in the other parts of the world.
What about in terms of the economy? I mean, they're money conscious, aren't they? Even affluent travellers are going to be a little bit money conscious. There was an issue, wasn't there, recently or 6 months ago, with the rupee falling in value? I mean, those kind of things, do they affect them?
Very honestly, yeah, that 10-15% fluctuation is going to be there, and it's given because India predominantly every year we see like a 5-7% depreciation of the rupee versus the dollar. So people actually are okay with that, because if you see in general, the hotel rates have really jumped up, the airlines has really jumped up. So that is more affecting the affluent travelers than the small spikes in the rupee depreciation.
Okay, Amit, what's your take on this?
For me, last 6 months have been extremely challenging. We've always been private travel designers and we've been specializing in it. But in last 6 months, we've also become doctors and lawyers. Doctors, going through the vaccine requirements, the medical changing conditions, the entry requirements, how many doses, which manufactured vaccine in which country, lawyers reading all the contracts, the cancellation policies, the future credits and whatnot. And when I say challenging, it is basically, it's been a good sign because the destination started opening up, but everything happened in phases, and we were actually the driving force. So that's why we were in high demand, because we were the people who were handling high end travel, providing personalized service, and making sure that our clients are able to travel back to the destinations they seek to travel and make their experience seamless for them. And we were taking the brunt, we were taking that pressure, and we were working extra to make sure that that actually happens. So that also presented us with a lot of opportunity, to connect at a deeper level with existing clients, find new clients who were seeking our services. But that's the way it was expected. Nobody expected travel to just open up. So for something like this coming out of the pandemic, there is a reboot period, and we are still undergoing that reboot period. For some destination it was easier, because they survived on regional tourism or domestic tourism. For other destinations with were practically closed throughout the pandemic, they opened up, they make the announcements, but that was not enough. So it was for us, to make sure that has the destination really opened up, what is the risk factor. The travelers were still willing to travel, they were still willing to undertake test on arrival, but it was our responsibility to make them aware of the risk factors, that what happens if you test positive, because eventually you get the call.
Yeah, I understand.
So
Yeah, sorry, Sanjar, I thought you was going to say something there.
No, no. I
Right.
just agreeing
But
to Amit.
but tell
Like he
me,
said,
in
doctors
terms
and lawyers.
in terms of COVID entry regulations or entry requirements because of COVID, is there clarity now? Do you think? Do we all know? Does the affluent traveller know? Or I guess they lay it onto you. But how clear are you about where you can go without
The most
restrictions?
part, because frankly speaking, I don't blame the tourism boards or the hoteliers, because a lot of these decisions were government driven, and governments are not used to pandemics, so they were also learning by the day. And the reason wherein we've reached the stage wherein now the destinations are redesignating COVID from pandemic to endemic. They're removing the testing. They've realized that the current variant is flu-like symptoms, because if you don't test you don't know. But then they've also realized that if you keep testing, and if you keep implying that we need 3 doses and now we need a booster dose after every 6 months, it's only gonna complicate things. So if you really have to open up, you have to open up just like the pre-COVID times. And how you do it, it is up to you, because you're competing against other destinations, who have gone all out, and removed all the crazy restrictions which had very little logic. And that's about it. And we are relieved that we have much more clarity now. And the tourism boards are also taking cues from other destinations, and feedback from private travel designers like us, feedback from clients, what is the way forward.
And so, on that score, Anshul, I mean, how much are tourist boards, how much are individual destinations aware of the size and the growth of the Indian affluent market? Are they aware of this now?
I think since China was not on and is not on, so each and every tourism board is kind of currently counting on India as the biggest one chunk market, and this puts India in a very very sweet spot. There have been challenges, but for sure, if you talk about any tourism board all across the globe, except a few, they are we as India are at number one on the priority. And we have been seeing road shows which have been happening, tourism boards coming to local cities and tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 cities, pushing tourism to all destination, even remote destinations within their countries as well. So we have been seeing, like, I know Amit and Sanjar, coming from different parts of India. Everyone is busy with some lunch or some dinner every day of the week, with some tourism board or some airline or something is going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We're
You're in
overwhelmed.
demand. You're being courted, essentially. That's interesting. And now let's look at the kind of places that your clientele are looking at. Now, we heard from the previous discussion that there is obviously diversity, that there is desire to go to places that are different and new. But just give me an example of the kind of destinations that are currently popular with your specific clientele. Sanjar, you start, please.
So I think we see a clear shift away from the cities. Um, that is definitely happened. People are traveling to destinations which are away, in the midst of nature. I recently had clients who wanted to visit Ireland, and they wanted to have the city at hand, but they chose to stay in the suburbs of Dublin rather than in Dublin. And I think that is the kind of shift that is happening. They want to be close so they can, drive an hour and be there, have their Michelin lunch or dinner, and that's fine to do, as long as they come back in the nature. And I think there's a huge sort of reappreciation of, being in or amidst nature. So I think that's happening, and they're picking up destinations which are uh, less frequented by, let's say, mass tourism. Places like Puglia, for instance, rather than going to Umbria, those are more sort of a draw. And also destinations like Africa, where there is natural distancing. You don't really need to do social distancing because, you're staying in independent sort of, villas or luxury tents, so to say. And so that has been a clear shift. Maldives, as you know, was like a huge hit, and that's because you could just stay in a villa and not have to, deal with people around you.
Yeah.
You know, that is the paradigm shift that I've seen. People moving away from cities into, more into nature, let's say.
I want to look
So
at
I'll just
just
want to add, sorry, I'll just add in over here. So I come from Ahmedabad, and we have seen two kinds of people. So one is exactly what Sanjar is saying, but people also want to travel to cities because they had missed that city life for quite a while. They were kind of isolated, and people really actually enjoyed going to bigger cities and enjoyed meeting people, seeing people, and hanging out and clubbing and restaurants, everything. So they wanted that real life to be back, and that is what we had seen in post-pandemic 6 months.
well, that reflects a relaxation really about the safety aspects and COVID. I guess you're saying they're very happy to be in crowded places now. That's what they miss that, and they want to feel that again. Yeah, is that what you're saying, Anshul?
Yes.
Yes. So this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
besides the whole Maldives travel and everything.
yeah, yeah. But there are only a certain number of private islands, aren't there? Let's face it. So they're going to have
Correct.
to go to other places too.
True. True.
uh, Amit, what's your take on that? Where are the popular places that your clients want to go?
Rajan, based on my experience, I'll talk about the current and the future demand. So the aspirations of these discerning clients are just like pre-COVID times. They want to go to the destinations where they wanted to go pre-COVID, and it is basically the first question is, okay, I want to go to New Zealand, is it open? I want to go to Japan, is it open? Can I do Antarctica? Can I go to the North Pole? Can I do Central Asia? So it all depends if the destinations have really opened up. And then plus it is a very personal choice. It's a personal decision as to where the client is concerned. A lot of clients, they started traveling much earlier. The first opportunity they got, they were out. Then the other clients who have just taken their first international holiday. So
Right, right.
we are not in a position to form any trends or to force them. We have to balance it out based on their comfort level. So whether they still want to go to those private islands, or they're okay with the bigger cities, because the fact remains is that travel is all about making connections. It's all about people.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all about those crowded restaurants, that
yeah,
sense of touch.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not about spending weeks and months on a private island or on a beach resort.
yeah, yeah,
So eventually that has to go away.
yeah.
But I'm very happy that they're willing to travel again. Similar patterns, just like pre-COVID. They want activity, they want experiences. It's all happening. But like I said, it is up to us to make sure and advise them that is the destination ready, and are you ready?
Yeah. When you talk about people, it's interesting because I always remember this quote about how travel is basically about going halfway around the world to have a conversation with somebody who is the equivalent of your next door neighbor who you never talk to. But that is the joy of travel. That's what the psychology of travel, isn't it? And people do miss that. They become different people, and the socialization aspect is very important. I agree. Are there any destinations that you're impressed with, emerging destinations perhaps, who've done making extra effort really to make people feel more welcome and to get this market? Sanjar.
Well, I think Australia has just made a very strong move by introducing a direct flight from Sydney to Bangalore. And I think that was a very bold move at a time when they had other options open, uh, considering the fact that it's after 12 years that they've introduced a new route. The last one was, I think, to San Diego. So that is a very positive move. And I think those guys were there recently in Bangalore at the launch, which happened on the 14th of September. And they were all sort of willing, excited, gung ho about getting Indian sort of affluent travelers into Australia. And of course, we've got the cricket coming up, so that's an added sort of
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
draw. But so I found them to be very forthcoming and positive about having affluent Indians into Australia. Um, Other than that, I'm just trying to think as we speak, but I think Bali has also gone all out trying to lure people coming because, if you look at December booking trends, you just can't find any accommodation available. It's
Yeah,
all booked up. So yeah, I mean, these two, I think it's more
that's true.
happening on the eastern side right now of the world rather than the west.
Excellent.
Let's say.
Well, we have somebody from Bali actually, or a hotelier based in Bali on the later panel, so I'll ask him about that.
Please.
Anshul, from your perspective, then, are there any destinations that are making extra efforts to attract, perhaps newer ones, to attract the Indian clientele?
So, from our city, and as per Sanjar, there is a new flight from Bangalore to Sydney. We have a new flight. We have a lot of flights which are starting from Ahmedabad to Vietnam. And that destination is really pushing clients to kind of go to Vietnam. And that was never ever an explored destination like for the mainstream clients. But now suddenly everybody is talking about Vietnam and what are the best hotels over there? What is the best way to see Vietnam? And suddenly it's just like come out of nowhere because just the new flight is starting to Vietnam. And it is not that expensive, even if you take the top luxury hotels. It's not that expensive, and that's the reason like a lot of people want to go to Vietnam.
It's interesting. I mean, I love Vietnam, but I've been there much more as a kind of not affluent traveler, and I think that's part of the experience. You don't have to necessarily be in top luxury. You can be roughing it a little bit. You can take the
Yeah.
trains and sleep, and whatever. But that takes me to this point, really, which is sustainability is the big thing that everyone talks about. But I want to know, in reality, how much are affluent travelers actually interested in that? Are they asking you questions about that? And when I say sustainability, I'm talking about not just the environment, but also the effect on local communities of where they're going. Are they paying lip service to it, or do they actually mean it? Amit, you first.
You're right. When you talk about sustainability, it's been, a buzzword and more of a
Yeah,
fad. But I'll be very frank with you. This current reboot period and post-COVID travel, we've talked so much about regenerative travel and sustainability, being mindful, slow travel, but we are back to the same craziness. So to
right.
start with,
Yeah,
we have to adopt sustainability at our level, at the supplier level. So whether
yeah,
it's travel designer, whether it's hotels, whether it's destinations, and that's how it will resonate to the end client. Because I'll be
yeah,
very frank with you, I've not had a single client, who have decided on a trip or on holiday based on the fact that I'll select a destination, or a hotel or a resort based on, their engagement with CSR or sustainability or regenerative travel. But it is basically a 360-degree consciousness which has to be adapted by everyone, and it has to start from us, because we have to start informing and educating our clients, and we have to
right.
be more prepared with it. And it is not just it's also at a personal level, at our homes, what we are
Yeah,
doing, our lifestyle choices, how we travel, where are we traveling, our choice of destinations. Recently I was in Thailand, and we were browsing experiences and activities, and these elephant camps, these tiger camps, they were a definite no, because these are not ethical.
yeah, yeah,
So even though my daughter was excited about them seeing these pictures, but then you have to educate these kids, and they're also learning from their schools that touching the elephant or bathing with an elephant, this is not natural. So it
yeah, yeah.
starts at your home front, and then your businesses, and then how you travel. So it has to be a combined and coordinated effort by everyone.
But you're
and
also
and that's the
saying,
only way we'll survive. Trust me, that is the
yeah,
only way we'll survive and create that cushion for us for future shocks like
but
the
also,
pandemic.
sorry, I mean, also you're saying then the responsibility lies with people like you. to inform your clients about the carbon footprint, whatever happens with what they're doing, and you do you feel that responsibility? You want to make sure that you live up to that responsibility, or would you just go for, look, this is a great trip, they're spending lots of money, we'll go with it?
So that's what I'm saying. That attitude has to change.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Anshul?
The responsibility lies with us to educate them.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Anshul?
So I 100% agree with that. And what we have been doing is that we have been asking clients more subtly that, this is a more eco-friendly resort. Would you like to try that? And that kind of question initiates that conversation. And then now you kind of get into the conversation of the eco-friendliness or sustainability and all those kind of things, because you cannot just push a client and when you don't know that if he wants the old world luxury and he doesn't really care about, and there are clients who doesn't really care about what sustainability and those kind of things. They really want to have the best time of their life for those 7 days, and they might be having the sustainable kind of living for the rest of their 360 days of the year. So it really depends on client to client, and you have to respect what the client wants. And that's how I kind of get into the conversation and know the clients and then take it from there.
Sanjar, are you looking at destinations or new offers? Are you looking at them from the sustainable point of view? Is that an aspect you're checking?
Absolutely. I think, and I agree with both Anshul and Amit. I think we play a very pivotal part in making the clients conscious of what the industry is talking about. So it does get talked about in the industry when we are at travel forums and things like that, when we talk to hotel partners, when we hear in the media, in the travel media. And it becomes our responsibility to convey that. And I have noticed that whenever we do that, when we make the clients aware, they tend to think in the direction that we want them to think. So we play as travel advisors a very, very critical part here. And given a choice between, like Anshul says, a eco-friendly and let's say plain vanilla, you would go with eco-friendly because that's the way to the future. That's what you want to hand over to the next generation, right? And you don't want this pandemic coming back. I mean, the whole sort of happening of the pandemic is a result of us not caring about the environment.
And is there a difference? I mean, in the previous panel as well, they were talking about millennials and Gen Z being different and in some ways sharing more in common with their peer groups in other countries than they do perhaps with other Indian travelers. And I think that's interesting. Do you see a difference in attitude, not just about the environment, but just generally in what they want to do compared to, say, the older generation? Amit, tell me.
Absolutely.
Sorry, sir.
I've always maintained that when it comes to high-end luxury travelers, I call them discerning clients. They are no different from any other traveler coming from matured markets like UK, US, and Australia. Yes, every nationality, every destination client will have their specific requirements. But as discerning clients, the basic requirements remain the same. And sometimes I feel amazed wherein you find these DMCs, they've established these Indian departments, people handling business from India. So what's unique about India? I mean, I don't understand. Is it the
Well,
language?
apparently they're very demanding.
We don't want you. We don't need Hindi guides. We don't need literature in Hindi. And what's unique about us? Why do you need a separate department just to handle the so-called Indian client? Yes, when it comes to mainstream tourism, maybe it's logical because they prepare these standard packages and they feel that this is what Indians eat, this is where Indians would stay, this is what they like. But when it comes to discerning travelers, you really have to be very open-minded. You cannot restrict yourself. You cannot assume and pre-assume that an Indian would not spend so much, or an Indian would not travel to a remote location like this, or Indian are not skiers, or they are not divers, or they would not climb mountains. It's not like that. And anybody who thinks like that is losing out to quite a lucrative segment of global clientele.
But I guess also what I'm referring to, and Sanjar, I'll ask about this, is the generational thing. I'm talking about Gen Z millennials. Have they got different tastes to their parents? Do they, what do they want, and are they perhaps even more eco-conscious, for example?
I think more so than the previous generation. I think, I'm a father of two millennials, and I can tell you that they are so much more aware and conscious of what is right and what is not. And what is not, they will not let, anybody do it. It's not about just them doing it. They raise a voice of their own and say, this is not right. And they are, because of the social media and because of things, they can put down something which is not right, and they are very, very, vocal about it. So I see them more informed, more evolved, more conscious. uh, we've of course been through, we as in, I'm talking about our generation, we've been through a lot. We've educated ourselves with time. They are born into a different world, and I just find them so much more, and it gives me a lot of joy to see them so informed and so aware and raising their voice against what is not right.
Yeah. Anshul, I think we've talked before, and I'm interested. I think you are possibly a bit younger than me, and perhaps the other two as well. What's your perspective on that? Do you see your peer group definitely having different demands? Did you hear me then? I
Anshul,
think
it's for you. Anshul?
Anshul, I think your signal's not very good. Did you hear that? Can you hear me, Anshul?
So,
Oh, right, yeah, go.
sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, I think the Gen Z or the younger generation is very, very clear on what they want. So, if they are wanting to go on a ski trip, then they will concentrate on that ski trip. And they are very, very clear of what they want out of their trip. If somebody is going on a honeymoon and they have a clear checklist of doing things, and we need to kind of address that. They might not really care about what kind of hotel they are staying in, but what kind of experience they want, they really, really care about that. And that is what the shift is, which is happening in the younger generation or the Gen Z, what you call. And on the second question, on the second part of the question of the eco-friendliness, for sure we are seeing a major shift. As Amit and Sanjar both mentioned, that wildlife is the wildlife sustainable wildlife? What is happening over there in that property? They would like to know, and they are curious about that. And at the same time, they also want that eco-friendliness, sustainability to be taught to their kids as well when they are doing this trip. So it's like a wholesome thing, and a lot of changes which are coming slowly, but for sure there is change which is coming.
There are people who are going to be watching, gentlemen, who are perhaps new to the business, and they would love to get some tips from you as to how to make their businesses prosper and thrive. If there were any lessons, anything that you could tell them now, perhaps you talk to people all the time now who are starting out, what would you say to them? Sanjar, what would you say?
I would say get into the business only if you're passionate. That is the first driver. If you're not passionate, do something else.
Right.
But if you really feel, and that's about, when I say passion, it is about learning about the world. It's an education when you travel. And I think when people travel with that in perspective, they see the world through different eyes, you know. So I think it's first very important to be passionate about your business. Second, it is important to listen to your clients. As simple as that. Don't push or shove a trip just because the person has said, okay, I want to do Italy. Try and understand why the person, what is the person looking for? how do you match the expectations? And it's eventually about, to put it, matching people to product, right? And for us, product is a destination, experiences are, a product. So it's all about matching people and product together. Once you do that, and that can happen only if you listen more and talk less. Once you've understood what is being sought, you can deliver that much better, because you are the agent who is talking in turn to suppliers on the ground. You are educating the hotels on what the needs of the client are. You are educating the DMC on what experiences will make the clients happy, and how do you top that. So I think, if you just do those things right, and it's all about, brass tacks at the end of the day. If you do those things right and not worry about the rest, uh, as in, don't focus on how much you're going to bill and all of that, but
Hmm.
focus more on delivery and understanding. I think you won the game, and that'll take you a long way, because the word of mouth is what matters today. For us, that's how the business, especially niche companies like Amit's and Anshul's, we've grown totally by word of mouth, and I think that is the change that we are seeing in the long tail. It is just growing and growing only because the clients want to come back to you, their repeats. I mean, for us at Panache World, almost 85% of our clients are either repeats or referrals. We don't advertise, so to say, but there's a huge sort of, repeat and referral sort of business coming into us.
Right.
And
That's
that's
so
been the
interesting.
case, yeah, that's been the
Yeah.
case for the past 15 years. So, and we've just grown with that. So it's just about doing things right and listening, delivering. That's all you need to do.
Okay. Amit, what's your perspective? What advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out in this business? What should they be doing?
A single word, focus. It's very simple, but it's very difficult. You need to focus and you need to specialize and you have to learn to say no. You cannot do everything. You cannot be a jack of all trades. So and that's the key, and that's the only way you'll grow. So that's very important. And
Okay.
in luxury travel, everyone does luxury travel, and now you even have these fancy designations, travel designer, private travel designer, luxury travel designer, travel curator, experience curator, and whatnot.
Yeah.
But does it match your profile? Does it match your business ethics? Does it match in terms of what actually you're doing, your clientele, the products and experiences that you're offering? And obviously, like Sanjar said, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So you're not just selling travel or selling packages. You're not in transactional business. It's all about experiences. It's all about being in control, being hands-on. So it comes to, you create your own focus and you stick by it, and then you
Yeah.
grow organically. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anshul, your perspective. What would your advice be?
I would I would say just keep it simple. And from what Sanjay has said, I completely agree. And what Amit has said, I completely agree. You have to be passionate. You have to stay focused. All those, but don't forget that travel is a complicated business. But try to make it simple for the client at the end of the day, and that's how you will be making the client happy, because they think that travel is really complicated, which it is, and how you make it simple, and that's the art of a travel designer or a travel curator or a travel company.
Tell me, all of you, everyone these days talks about algorithms, artificial intelligence, how they're going to help the world and business evolve quicker and be more efficient and all these things. Do they have any relevance to what you do? Anshul.
I think in the long run it will. But being said that, it's all about human connections when we talk about affluent travel. Like a client calls you up that I want to go on a next holiday. I know what is his taste, what is the opportunity, or what is the liking in which destination which has newly popped up. And it is really what his mood is on that day, matching that mood with what are the options which are available, and there is a lot of thinking behind that which goes on. So in the long run, yes, some algorithms might help, but 80% it will still be a human connection. That's what my feeling is.
Okay, Amit.
When I listen to these words, algorithm and artificial intelligence, what comes to my mind is Terminator, the entire series.
Okay.
And that is actually the future. They'll
Yeah.
eventually take over and we'll be at war with them. But that's on the lighter side. But the fact remains is that it also tends to help us. And there's a lot of information that is available. It's just that how we use that information, and we find an opportunity in that. Because we must understand that with all that information, that even the clients are overwhelmed, and whether this technology is actually ruling you at your personal level. You've been tracked everywhere and you can't control it. And then you find somebody who's available on a phone call, and not a self-answering machine, and you're not selecting options. You're actually speaking to a real person. You can meet that
Yeah.
person, and that person, he understands your preferences, and he knows when to disturb you or when to contact you, and not just an algorithm, or not just a chatbot.
Yeah.
So that's actually helping us grow as travel designers and connect at a deeper level with our clients. So it's actually
And
both ways. So
okay, I mean, and Sanjar, you were talking about how so much of this is word of mouth anyway, and having that personal relationship with your client. But can you see any help that technology can give you in the future?
I think we are very near another transformation in the travel business. I think all of these things, be it artificial intelligence or various algos, I think they are going to come into. I talk to people who are in the technology research business, and I see them saying, "You've not seen nothing yet," because the way it's going to come in and make us change things. It is exactly how the dot-com time when it came up, and it just took everyone by surprise. I mean, we were so used to doing everything by paper, right? Everything was like telex, fax, and we grew up in those archaic world. And then everything shifted online, and what a transformation it was, and that carried on through the decade. And it is now going to get into another such wave. And I think we are perhaps 2 years away from it, but we will see technology becoming enablers, and we will of course have to be very adaptive to it. And we will, because people in the travel business, we are a step ahead of our clients, and we do take control pretty quickly of things, and we adapt to situations. And I think, I find that that enabling is just going to make us become so much better as travel advisors. It's all a matter of how we use it, how we do it, to what extent we do it, uh, whereas not taking away from personalization. The personalization factor has to stay, because that is the stigma, right? That is the thing that kind of binds us to our clients. So that will stay, but I think we are not far from another technology wave setting in.
Okay, fantastic. We're nearly out of time, but I'm going to end by asking you one quick question each, and that is there one single deciding factor that you would say that a Indian affluent traveler has to have that will sway them either way? Is there something that's happened? Is there anything that you can think of which makes people go, yes, I want that? Let me start with you, Amit.
I would say reliability and trust. It's very
Okay,
simple,
simple.
but that's about
Simple.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
That's the key
Anshul,
now.
thank you. Anshul.
I think I completely agree with Amit. It's more about reliability and trust after the pandemic, and that is the only key reason why people kind of switch. people have seen a lot through pandemic with their travel companies and their travel advisors, and the people who stayed on the top kind of really made it through.
And last word to you, Sanjar.
So I guess your question was about travel companies, right? About travel
Mm,
advisors. What?
mm.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say research. I think that is so important as a travel advisor. If you've not done things yourself, you are in no position to advise your clients, right? Because most of the affluent clients, they have several homes which are staffed, which and they have chefs, they have a fleet of swanky cars. You are taking them away from that comfort
Yeah.
uh, into another place. So you have to be sure that it's worth their time, which is so precious when they take it out in the first place, right? They are trusting you with their time. And if you don't come good, boy, you've had it. So I think you need to know what you're selling. And in fact, a lot of times we go and tell people not to do a certain thing because we understand our clients, we know their preferences, and we know they wouldn't like it. It's just that one of their friends would have mentioned something and they would say, okay, I want to do that as well. It is for us to sort of almost influence them into thinking right and making sure that, yeah, this is an experience they will appreciate or not. So I think the whole knowledge base, and this is a knowledge industry if you are in the luxury segment. So the whole knowledge piece is so important, the researching is so important, traveling yourself is so important, just so that you can advise correctly to the clients.
Okay, we're out of time. I want to thank all three of you, Sanjay, Anshul, and Amit. Really interesting insights there. The thing I'm really gleaning from this is actually this is a really creative industry you work in. You've got to be really smart and come up with ideas and always be looking ahead, always be really conscious of what your clients want. Yes, the Indian affluent market, everybody wants that customer, but nonetheless, you've got to make them feel special, as you say, Sanjar. They're going away from their swanky cars and lovely homes. You've got to give them something equally, if not better, special to enjoy when they get there. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank
I'll
you.
be back very shortly with talking to two hoteliers actually about their perspective of things. For the time being, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us, Rajan. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.